The US is the largest trading partner of Kenya, among other trading partners that Kenya has. President Trump was also very keen to discuss about increase of taxes on imported goods from outside the United States. And that includes, by the way, produce that is from Kenya to the United States. Kenya President Ruto has been very keen in matters to do with climate change. Kenya has invested a lot of money, as well as has gotten a lot of donors in projects that are supporting climate resilience. So if President Trump steps into office, all these efforts will be scrapped off. Well, the elections of the United States are just around the corner, and the two candidates, that is President Trump and Kamala Harris, took to the stage to try as much as possible to explain their policies to the people of America, as well as their policies that will affect outside countries that are in relation with the America, that is including Kenya. And pertinent among the issues that they discussed was the economy. Of course, if you're running for president in the United States, one of the most principal aspects in your campaign will be the economy. And both of these candidates had something to say about the economy. And Kamala Harris spoke about tax breaks for people who are unemployed, as well as $3 million set aside to build houses for those who don't have houses. President Trump was also very keen to discuss about increase of taxes on imported goods from outside the United States. And that includes, by the way, produce that is from Kenya to the United States that is going to be exported from Kenya to the United States, as I'm going to discuss later on in this video. So he said that specifically goods from China will have an increase of 60%. That means that goods from China that are being imported in the United States will have an increase of prices of 60%. This is in a bid for President Trump to try as much as possible to have American goods to be prioritized more than goods that are coming from China. And you know, these two nations are the world most leading in terms of trade, and a trade war between these two will affect other countries outside the United States, as I am going to explain also further in this video. Something else that these two candidates were also discussing was on abortion. And as you know, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned the Roe v. Wade in 2022, and that made the abortion topic to become a matter of solid discussions between the Republicans and the Democrats. If you know the politics in the United States, the Democrats have been supporting the right to have an abortion, and the Republicans have been very, very conservative on this issue and say that there is no thing like having an abortion at any given stage. So Donald Trump was pinned by Kamala Harris to discuss about abortion, and he didn't do well on discussion about abortion. Kamala was very, very forward in discussing about abortion, on how abortion can be carried out safely, and the need for the United States to legalize abortion in all states. Another issue that was also pertinent and was on discussion was immigration. As you know, President Trump was very, very critical on Kamala Harris and called her the border czar of immigration, that she allowed a lot of people from the southern border of the United States to enter the United States illegally. And he has been criticizing her on a lot of atrocities that have been done by immigrants or people who have gone over the border illegally into the United States. And specifically, a highlight of the debate, perhaps, Kamala Harris was very tricky and clever to pin or overturn the discussion on immigration by pinning Donald Trump to speak about the cats and dogs and pets that have been eaten by immigrants, as he purports in a particular state in the United States, in Springville, that there are immigrants that have been eating pets, dogs and cats. And that is why Donald Trump is focused on making sure that people do not go over the border. So that was perhaps the highlight, and that is what is being discussed across the world when Donald Trump went into discussing about the cats and dogs, and Kamala Harris had this look on him, trying to insinuate that he is speaking a lot of things that are not really issue related to what is happening in the United States. And finally, they also touched on the January 26th violence that happened after Trump lost, when Biden was almost getting sworn in, of the insurrection in the Capitol. And that was a point of highlight where Donald Trump tried as much as possible to dodge that and speak about other things, but Kamala Harris tried to bring up the issue of democracy and the fact that people have a right to have their say and that their say in the ballot will be respected. Well, this comes just a week before the United States starts the mail-in ballots. That means that as soon as next week, Monday, some of the United States residents or citizens will start voting. And that is very, very important because these voting patterns are going to be analyzed, and the say of the states that are called swing states or states that can vote either way are going to be definitive in what is going to happen. Basically, this debate will not sway a solid Republican or a solid Democrat from changing their stances. What is really going to be looked as a factor are the people who have not yet decided whether they want to vote Democrat or they want to vote Republicans. Those are the important votes that this debate perhaps is going to sway. And in a very tight race, as we are witnessing right now, it is very important to have all the votes in your backyard. We know how tight the 2016 vote was between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton won in the popular vote and lost in the college. Donald Trump won in the college, and that made him president. So it is very, very important. And in this debate, Kamala Harris is purported to have taken the day, but that does not insinuate anything about her being the candidate that will just defeat Donald Trump. In 2016, a similar thing happened where people said that Hillary Clinton won the debate, but as it went to prove, winning the debate is not congruent to winning the election, as Donald Trump will later come and win the elections and be declared the winner and the president of the United States. So the stakes are still high, but Kamala put up a very, very fierce debate. He just put Donald Trump on the defense the entire time. Donald Trump had to defend himself on various issues, and the fact that a lot of fact-checking was being done as Donald Trump went on to discuss issues pinpointed on the issue of being true and the issue of falsehood in elections. Well, after the debate, Donald Trump went on to say that the debate was good. It was one of the greatest debates that he has ever had, but he said that the moderators were biased. And Kamala Harris, or the Kamala Harris team, or the Democratic team, went on to say that they need another debate. So you can just guess how it went for both of them. But the bottom line, the debate was done, and people have a lot of discussions, and perhaps a few votes may have changed sides from the debate. So this is what will happen if Trump is elected for a second term as the president of the United States, how his policies will affect Kenya and how his policies will affect other countries, more so in the African region. And one thing that President Trump is very keen to reintroduce is the American First policy. The America First policy basically is the policy that puts America's interest before the interest of any other country. And by that, Trump wants to increase 10% of taxes on all imports that will be sent to the US. Kenya is a major trading partner to the United States in Africa. In fact, the US is the largest trading partner of Kenya, among other trading partners that Kenya has. And Kenya exports tea and many agricultural produce, including coffee, to the United States. By an increase of 10% of the produce that Kenya will be exporting to the United States, that means that there will be reduced competitiveness of the Kenyan market to the United States. It means that if there will be any other simple or cheaper produce that Americans can get within their country or outside, they will prefer that against the Kenyan produce that will be more costly compared to what it is right now. As well as there will be a decline in export revenue. That means that the people who are involved in businesses that are trading with the United States, that are exporting from Kenya to the United States, will see a reduce in their export revenue. And that means that their profit margins will be slimmer, and also that will translate to employment, where employment will be negatively affected. So people who are working in industries that are exporting from Kenya to the United States will be affected should President Trump get into office and effect the America First by a 10% increase in imports to the United States. Again, there will be geopolitical tensions. Of course, Trump being Trump will stir up the entire world, as he did with China in the last regime. He had trade wars with China, war of words with North Korea, war of words with Russia and the European Union. So Africa is very vulnerable to any geopolitical tensions, and geopolitical tensions negatively affect Africa because Africa needs to trade with both China, the United States, the East, the West, and whatever country that can be available for trade. So geopolitical tension basically will restrict Africa to trade with only one side and pick a side that they can rely on. So having our hand fixed on which side to pick on is a negative or a disadvantage to Africa and will affect the growth and the GDP and the economies of Africa. As well as Trump is not a believer of climate change. He specifically said that he will withdraw from the Paris Agreement and promote fossil fuels. That will affect Africa, and specifically Kenya, because the current president of Kenya, President Ruto, has been very keen in matters to do with climate change. Kenya has invested a lot of money, as well as has gotten a lot of donors in projects that are supporting climate resilience and just making sure that climate change effects are reduced. For example, going for carbon credits and etc. So if President Trump steps into office, all these efforts will be scrapped off, and Kenya will have to look for other donors except America that will try as much as possible to invest in climate-related projects as well as the climate agenda. Africa is also affected negatively with climate change. So if the US is going to invest in fossil fuels, is going to encourage other global leaders to invest in fossil fuels, and Africa is going to lose, Kenya included, with drought and heavy rains, as we have witnessed. Lastly, investment pullbacks, as we saw in the last regime. President Trump has been very, very categorical in reducing donor aid. And in the last regime, he did that by reducing donor aid in terms of PEPFAR. There was reduced investment in PEPFAR, and PEPFAR is the aid that assists people with HIV and AIDS, and there was a lack of medicine for persons with HIV and AIDS here in Kenya and across Africa. So if President Trump steps foot in the office, we are going to see a change also in investment pullbacks that are going to affect Africans across the board.